Hi, and welcome back to Balanced, where we look at political topics of the day, look at the ways that perhaps we're being manipulated by the media, uh, and different things. I wanted to address right off the bat with the reason that we have had a delay in recording the podcast. I've had some medical issues, family medical issues, where my one of my family members spent almost a month in the hospital and it required my attention. And I firmly believe that family is the most important thing. So that took me away from this. But we're back now. And I'd love to bring on our guest, Dr. Paulette Clark. She is absolutely amazing. And it's even more fun because we don't agree on everything.
Hey, how are you? Welcome back. Good to see you.
Oh,
Good to see you.
it has been a crazy month,
I
but
bet.
we're making it through it. And
Mm-hmm.
family members getting better. And
Good,
so we're very, very thankful for that.
good, good. Glad to hear that. So listen,
Well,
I understand that you got some stuff you want to talk about. Where are we
oh,
going?
I
Ooh,
do. I do. Since we've missed the opportunity for a couple of episodes, I wanted
okay.
to touch on a few different things, but I'd like to start
Mhm.
off with, if you can call it such a thing, a presidential debate,
Mm. Ooh.
which I I didn't watch. I was actually on the road a lot
Okay.
this past month,
Okay.
so I was listening to it verbally. Um,
Okay.
and I found a few things interesting.
Okay.
Number one, did you happen to notice that whenever a question was asked,
Mm-hmm.
the response, let's just start off with, when they asked Kamala Harris, well, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?
Right.
But then the answer is just completely somewhere else. It
Okay.
didn't really address that exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Mm-hmm.
went over to Donald Trump and they asked him something.
Mm-hmm.
And then his answer was somewhere way other than what they asked.
Ah,
And
yeah,
I'm listening to this and I'm going, that's politics. You
it is.
just don't answer. You just go somewhere else to where you can try to make a talking point. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm listening to this and I'm just, during it, I'm wondering, why am I listening to this? They're not,
Wow.
they're not
I'm already
telling
making
me
notes. Yeah.
anything specific. You know, I, by the end of it, I was like, yeah, I think Kamala Harris probably won the debate, but
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you exactly who lost the debate,
Yeah.
and that was everybody who listened to it or watched it.
Oh.
We lost.
Oh. Oh, I didn't see that one coming. So you think so let me ask you this. Do you think that Donald Trump was able to hold his own at all during the debate?
In some instances, yes, very
Okay.
few. She kept
Mhm.
laying little traps for him and got him emotional and rambling.
Yep. She
And when he
did.
does that, and she did that extraordinarily well. The problem was, then we didn't get any answers on anything. We didn't get any specifics. We didn't get anything out of that debate that said, you know what? I am for this person.
Yeah.
What we got from the debate was, I don't want the other person. So I'm going to vote for this.
Mm. So
That's what we got. We had two people going, how bad is the other person?
yeah.
It's like a race to the negative so badly that there's no positive here.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it going, let's vote for Scooby-Doo because we would get just as good of a job at, from what we're listening to.
So okay.
I'm disappointed, and I think the American people are the ones that really got
Okay.
screwed in this deal.
Well, I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think it shook him the minute she walked on stage. Number one, they've never met.
Right.
So that was the very first time. And I think that I do know that she had been working with someone very closely on her team who knew how to act just like Donald Trump. We actually talked about that on Brownstone Worldwide.
Right.
And she was able to practice ahead of time, which I think was brilliant. I don't know if he had the same opportunity to do so or not, but
I can actually answer that. I know he brought in Tulsi Gabbard.
Okay.
And if you remember back to the primaries in what was 2020, Tulsi Gabbard was running on the Democrat side of the primaries, and she just took Kamala Harris apart on the debate stage. So I know he brought her in.
Okay.
I think the problem, and I've always thought this to be the problem with Donald Trump, is no one person is right 100% of the time.
Correct.
None of us are. That's just, we all make mistakes. We all make decisions based on lack of information. That's just reality.
I agree.
If you have that arrogance to think that you're right, and then you bring in somebody who did a phenomenal job on the debate stage against your opponent, you should listen to her.
Right.
Because obviously she knows it. And I don't know if he listened to her.
I don't think he did.
So I don't know if that is he wasn't listening to her and staying on his game plan, or if Kamala Harris was able to throw him off of his game plan. So, because I wasn't able to see facial expressions or that sort of thing.
Right. So I'm going to say this, and I hate to cut you off, but I'll say this. Kamala Harris's team played on the fact that they know that he's arrogant. He knows he's rich, and he knows the power in the amount of money that he has and his followers. They played on that, and they knew what buttons to push to have him to begin to have those infantile statements that he was making in regards to her, and in regards to him having the biggest numbers ever. And so I think that they knew what to do. But then on the flip side, I'm going to say this, I'm going to put this out here. I have to agree with you where you said that neither she nor he was able to stay on topic and really focus on, she said, it was something that she said during the debate in regards to the mortgages, right? And she was saying, and every American should have mortgages and so forth and da. Well, no, everybody shouldn't have mortgages, but that's just me. But everybody should have the middle America. She kept talking about middle America, so forth, and this, that, and the third. She brought up the whole thing about, her working class mother and her dad and so forth and all of that. But she brought that up whenever the topic was difficult. I noticed that, right?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And it became about how she could relate to the American people. I no doubt believe and knowing where she went to college, knowing that she was raised by a single parent, knowing that her parents were immigrants, and understanding the fight and the struggle that she had to get to where she is now. I understand that. Most Americans do. We're not new to that. Tell me something I don't know about what you're going to do as the president of the United States, right? So that kind of threw me a little bit, because I kept saying, well, she never answered that. I literally was saying to myself, this true story, she didn't answer that. Even when the topic of her ethnicity came up, which I am neither for nor against either one. I could care less, right? But when the topic of her ethnicity came up again, it was never answered, right? It was, let me circumvent and start talking about something else. And sometimes you got to find a space and stick there.
Oh, and
And she
yeah, I'm
didn't.
glad you brought that up. And I don't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
explain to me just exactly how her ethnicity either helps or harms me financially, economically.
It doesn't.
It's completely
Irrelevant.
irrelevant to the discussion at all.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about this?
Yep.
You know,
Well, I
because
think,
you're doing it to make jabs at each other,
yes.
but every time you make a jab at each other, what you're telling us is that you care about more about your jabs than you care about
Yeah.
us.
Right. Right.
And it was,
Right.
and I think it's just sad, really.
It really, really is. And I'm gonna also put this on the table too. I 100% agree with you that it, you know, where her family is from does not put money in my pocket, nor does it impact my business in any way.
Right.
They were trying to, and I like the fact that she doesn't make it a focus, but when it was brought up, she should have addressed it. Right.
Well, yes.
That
Quickly,
part,
succinctly, and be done with it.
Yeah. And so here's what's really interesting. When you were, before you became vice president, there are tons of videos out there where she acknowledges her heritage and she talks about where she's from, but she doesn't do one over the other. I'm Indian, I'm Black, get over it, right? And so leave that where it is. But I understand why a lot of people are making it an issue. And it is because they're saying that she is garnering the Black vote because of that. And you have a lot of people, but even bigger than that, let's go even further. Let's go past her ethnicity and being Black and being Indian, and all of that, and being raised by her mother in a single parent household. Because how many of us have that exact same story? You know what I mean? Right. In this country. But let's go further and let's talk about the fact that not only is she a woman of color, let's go here, she's a woman. Before anything else. So you're going to have some people who are already like, nah, I'm not touching that because you shouldn't be leading anything except a frying pan. I've heard people say this. Now,
right. And I know people have said it to me, even females, and have said it to me that they don't believe that a female should be president. And my personal thought is, can you do a good job for us? I don't care if you're a female.
Yeah,
I don't. To me, your gender, your race doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter, because neither one of those things, in and of themselves, will help me or hurt me.
Yeah,
at all. They are, unfortunately, ways that politicians and the media can use to sensationalize something that is really not relevant to the discussion at all. If you're on a debate stage, especially running for president of the United States, you should never attack someone because she is a female.
Right.
But then on the flip side, you should never use being a female as an excuse.
Yeah.
Neither way. It's a tough arena, and if you get into it, frankly, we're not the only ones watching. The whole world is watching.
The whole world is watching.
Because they're looking at who's going to be the leader, and can we take advantage of all these different global situations, whether it be Taiwan, whether it be Ukraine. They're looking at this.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing that I would give to Donald Trump, because he was actually very similar to Ronald Reagan in the fact that our foreign adversaries that hated us weren't quite sure if he wouldn't press a nuclear button. They thought he just might be crazy enough to do it. And I'm not even saying that's a good thing, but
no, it's not.
But if your enemies think that you just might, they tend to not do stuff. That's reality. And America should come off with strength. but not come off as the bully.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it should be, hey, we'll work with everybody, but let's not, but don't try to harm us.
Right.
You know, whether it's economically, whether it's militarily, you know, we're not going to stand for that.
Right.
So I think foreign, I think our adversaries look at the elections perhaps a little bit different than we do, because we're in the middle of it. But I'm listening to that, and I'm just, it was funny. I was thinking the exact same thing that you said you were, which was, would one of you just please answer a question?
Answer the question.
I don't care
Honestly,
about cats.
Right.
You know,
right. I mean,
just answer it. Even if I don't like the answer,
absolutely
answer it.
Absolutely.
Answer it.
And it's so interesting that you say that, because I think at the end of the day, what's really it's so funny to me. I think about everything that's happening in this country right now, right? So we're getting closer and closer to the election. We're what is it, 30 something day? No, not 30, but maybe 40 something days away from the literal election day. People have already started early voting and so forth. And one of the things that I will definitely say is more people have made the decision already of what they're going to be doing, who they're going to be voting for.
Agreed.
And I already know who I'm voting for. So that there leaves no question and no doubt in my mind. And I'm going to be honest with you. It is a decision made, like many people, because we need one of y'all to go somewhere and sit the hell down. Well,
let me ask you this. Is your decision based on this person's better, or this is the lesser of two evils?
This time around, it's not about the lesser of two evils. It is about something that sounds fresh, something that I can relate to. And I know you're going to be talking about this a little bit later in the program, before we wrap up, about some policies that I know that Kamala has presented, and I'm paying attention to some of the things that she says. But let's be clear on some things here. And I'm not. I think I'm old enough to know better in assuming that within the time frame from Biden stepping aside and allowing her to take the position, that she came up with all of that on her own, because we know she did not. This was a group of folks.
None of them ever do.
Right. You know what I mean? A group of folks that got together and said, okay, here are the policies and here are the things that hey, Biden, let's bring all your stuff over here, but let's clean it up a bit and let's do this as a team and put this out. And we're going to just make her the front runner. We're going to make her the face that we see. But we all know that this was a group effort because it happened so quickly. And nobody can change my mind. What'd you say?
I don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
Having a group effort. I do not. As a matter of fact, I would have a real problem with it if someone said, I'm not listening to anybody. I'm doing this. Wait a minute. You need people to sit down and go, all right, well, let's just debate that a little bit and let's see what shakes out and what will work the best. And so if it's a team of people, I don't fault her for that. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a smart thing.
It's the only thing that could have worked at the time, though, because it happened too fast. 1 minute it was Biden and he was wandering off on one side of the stage, didn't know if he was going. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then the next thing you know, you've got Nancy Pelosi and you've got all of the Democrats having these side conversations saying, we got to get rid of this guy or we're toast. You know what I mean?
Which I believe they did.
Yeah. And so they had to make a decision.
It was his decision to step aside.
Well, it was the best decision. It was sad to see it happen, but the reality is it had to happen, because if not, it was awful to literally watch. He was demolished during the debate, even before. honestly, I don't think some days he knows if he's here. You know, and
I don't either. And at this point, I say this more of he needs to go home and
oh, he's at
relax.
home all right on a beach
Yeah,
somewhere.
but I mean, from a standpoint of, from a standpoint of, and we've all had older relatives who
Yeah.
wound up with some mental, you know, cognitive abilities where you just want to take care of them and let them enjoy their last years as best as absolutely possible.
Absolutely.
And I think he's in that situation
Mm-hmm.
where, yeah, we've all watched him wander off stage. We watched the debate with him and Trump going, something is wrong.
Yeah.
Something is truly wrong. And this is not somebody being a jerk. This is somebody who really, something is wrong. They need to have rest and not have a lot of stress on them. And they need to be able to just relax. And, you know, so, but I wanted to touch on that.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to bring up and to move on a little bit because we've talked in the past a lot about Donald Trump. We didn't talk as much about Kamala Harris because we didn't know because she hadn't come out with anything because it was just too new. So we had no idea. So I did not get a chance to watch the entire thing, but she did an interview with Oprah.
Okay.
And in that interview, she said something that I 100% agreed with.
Okay.
And what she said was, I'm a gun owner. If you break into my house, you're going to get shot.
Period.
Well, that, as every single gun owner I know feels exactly the same way. Because if you break into my house, it's not about theft. It's about the safety of my family, myself. And if you've broken in here, that's on you. You made that dumb decision.
Right.
So I agree with that. I 100% agree with her statement. Now, I think it was absolute 100% pandering to gun owners in the United States.
You think so?
Yes, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
And you can look up this video clip.
Okay.
Of her being asked about it. Now, I'm not going to say this word for word because I don't have it written down in front of me, but the response that she gave to a question that had to be about gun ownership.
Okay.
And what she said was, even though you're a law-abiding citizen and you have a gun in the sanctity of your home, does not mean that we won't come into your home to make sure that you're being responsible with it.
Yeah.
And I heard that, and I watched the clip of her saying this, and there was a couple of things that really disturbed me about it. One, you just said and made specific that you're talking about a law-abiding citizen who has not committed a crime, and that you are going to forcibly come into their home to check to make sure they're being responsible. Well, here's the problem with that. That's one, such a complete violation of our Constitution. It's unreal.
Yeah.
Number two, in order for the police or whatever agency they use to come into your home, they need a little something called a warrant.
That part.
So, but if you're saying you're a law-abiding citizen, you committed no crime, then they have no reason to get a warrant. Which means that if they come into your home, they're exactly the same people that she was just talking about. If you're breaking into my home, you're going to get shot.
You're going to get shot.
Because you're violating the law by forcing your way into my home.
I agree
Check
with that.
up on me? No. The only other way that police can come in is if they happen to be outside and they hear somebody scream for help, or they
have to have probable cause. Yep.
They have to. Yes, you have to warrant. You have to have probable cause or reason to believe that someone is in danger. You have to have something. And what she said was, "We will send people into your homes to make sure you are being responsible."
Right.
I am a gun owner. I have children in the home. I'm very responsible with it. I make sure They're not anywhere around it. They're not anywhere
Mm-hmm.
near it. And when they're old enough, I teach them how to use it responsibly. As I would say most gun owners are, who actually respect you have a firearm in the home used to protect your home, your family. The last thing on this planet is that you want is for one of them to get hurt.
Right. I agree with that.
So, yeah. And if you have not seen the clip, I would highly recommend you look it up, because
I'm definitely going to check it out, because I'm going to be honest with you. I personally, I'm kind of, forgive me, but I'm going to say this. I'm over it. This is me. I'm over it. I don't want any more. Here's where I'm over. I'm over the sensationalism of talking to only celebrities about what you want to do for the everyday person that lives, works, breathes America.
Right. It's amazing that they never bring on any. I don't think you've been invited to do an interview.
No.
With, say, on CNN or something.
Correct.
Just small business owner.
Right.
The people that they're talking about. Why don't they bring you on there and ask you what you think? Ask me. Because you live it every single
day. Yes. That is the reason why I made a conscious decision not to watch the interview with Oprah. I don't care about that. Let me tell you why. Because Oprah, ma'am, you're a billionaire. Period. Even though I'm a business owner. Right. And I understand, and I get it. You've gone through the trenches, We get it. We understand it. I need you to talk to the average American Joe and have that conversation in a sit down podcast style environment, and talk to me, the small business owner. Talk to you, the family man who has family, who has just gone through medical care, right? Talk to us. Tell us what your plans are and how we can help support you, the president, in those things, so that we can see things happen and progress in this country. We understand it's not going to happen in 4 years, because it took us a hell of a long time to get to where we currently are, from one administration to the next to get to where we are. So we can't blame one without looking back and going, now, how long did it take for us to get to where we are? So when I heard that she was interviewing her, I thought, no, I'm good. I don't need to watch that. I want you to talk to the regular American folks. Hit me there.
And by the way, let's not put this just to Kamala Harris. Donald Trump
too. Same thing. Absolutely.
Do this. Talk to the actual people you're saying you're trying to help.
Yes.
Because
that are going to be standing in line, rain, sleet, snow, whatever, to get you voted in. Donald, Kamala, and I'm just keeping it 100. That's kind of where I'm at. And you're right. That does not absolve Donald Trump from he should have to do the same thing. Talk to the people for real. Don't get on a stage with none of that. And I understand that, we've got all of these issues with people trying to, unalive him and so forth. And I get it, but, keep him safe. Yeah. And let's have those real conversations. Let the American people ask the questions. And that's not happening anymore. I remember when we used to have those town halls, and they're not doing that anymore.
Now
they're just running around here on social media, just sensationalizing everything. And people are hungry, and people are still without work. They're laying they're laying people off left and right. People aren't able to keep it. So it's too much stuff to happen for me to sit around and watch two rich women have a conversation. I ain't with it.
You want to impress me. Do a town hall with both candidates.
Yep.
Throw out every journalist for every major media outlet. You're not allowed to host it at all. You are not allowed.
Let the people host it.
Let the people host it. Let a couple of small business owners come in, have their website up, plug your questions in. We'll ask you the questions from our perspective of what we're going through every day.
Yes.
And then when you try to twist it like you did in the debate and talk about something else, we're going to go,
we're going to pull you back.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
If you want to win my vote, you don't get to not answer a question or twist it. and hold both their feet to the fire and go, we're going to call you out.
Yep. You don't get to do that. Yeah.
And you know what? Have people, regular people, who are perhaps lean different ways. That's a good thing. You know, you don't have to have, no, I don't need 2 Republicans or 2 conservatives or 2 liberals or 2 Democrats. No, have one of each.
Yeah.
Why not? Those people that just say, hey, you know what? We may not agree on everything, but we're experiencing a lot of the same problems.
Yeah. We are.
You know, and so, but neither one will do that. And I get your point on that. I think it's an excellent point. Just, you're talking to a billionaire.
Right.
Kind of like Donald Trump talking
to rich women sitting in a conference. Y'all haven't, man, come on. Talk to me when your refrigerator is empty. And not to say that either one of them have not, you know what I mean? Because Oprah Winfrey, I know where she came from, right? I reckon, and I know where Kamala came from. So it's not that they don't know the struggle. But you know what? When you go above those ranks, when you rise in those ranks, it's easy to forget those days.
Yes, it is. And by the way, it happened on the other side. Remember, Donald Trump did a whole conversation with Elon Musk.
Jeez, come on.
And I'm like, so we've got one billionaire talking to another billionaire
about the people who clock in every day making $7.25 an hour, living off of tips and $3.25 an hour, working 14 and 13-hour days, and standing on our feet and then coming home and having to make sure that the family is taken care of, all while peeking out the window to make sure that nobody is coming to pick up my damn car that I can't make the car note on because I got to make sure that my kids eat and I keep a roof over my head. So I'm trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, and somewhere in the middle, A and B is not equal in C. They're just waving at each other. And you 2 rich suckers are sitting here. It's something else I wanted to say. You 2 rich sap suckers are sitting here having a conversation on both spectrums, right? You're right. Donald Trump and Elon and Kamala and Oprah. Y'all having conversations, and you could talk to the people and tell us how you're going to fix this.
And by the way, of the 4 people, I didn't hear any one of the 4 people really say anything that was going to benefit me.
That part. That's where I'm at.
And I think it's ridiculous. But since we've talked about it, I want to move on a little bit.
Okay.
You know, some of Kamala Harris's policy proposals themselves. And
I'm gonna look them up while you do that.
Okay. Let's start with no taxes on tips in the service industry.
Okay.
All right. Well, one, I was actually debating this one with my wife earlier because we disagree on it, but that was something that Donald Trump had proposed actually a couple of months prior to it. Hence why he made the off the cuff comment about he wanted to send her a MAGA hat in the debate.
Okay.
Which the whole idea is, if this is a waiter or waitress, you're not making much money anyway, so let's not tax their tips.
Right.
And I would say in 80% of the case, or 90 or 95% of the cases, that's probably very true. Now, you do have the ultra elite restaurants that you and I have probably never been inside of, you know, where a meal costs $2,000 and a waiter's making great money. But for most people,
right,
if you're working as a waiter or a waitress, you're walking to and from work, you're just trying to survive.
Exactly.
And so when she came out with it, I was like, well, yes, Trump said it first. But that's one of those rare instances, I think, where I don't fault her for that, because if it's a good idea, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, if it is, it is. So I found that one interesting.
So I'm looking at it, and I want to just kind of point to she, according to The Hill, where I'm at right now, Vice President Harris blindsided Democratic lawmakers and progressive activists by endorsing a proposal first floated by former President Trump to exempt tips for service and hospitality workers from taxes, an idea Democrats had previously criticized as bogus and a ploy for votes. Harris's support for the idea is being seen as an aggressive play for votes in Nevada, a critical swing state where service workers will be key, and as an effort to neutralize whatever advantage Trump may have gained by first floating the idea during the meetings with GOP lawmakers on Capitol Hill in June. Now, to your point.
So they both did it to pander for votes. Unsurprising.
Wow.
Because you still have to get these things through Congress anyway.
Exactly. And the problem is when you're talking about that, I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to bring this up. I waited tables when I was in college. And one year, and let me tell you how they find out what you could possibly be making in tips. So I was making $2.25 an hour, true story. And I was bringing home maybe $100 in tips, maybe on a good night, but I didn't work every day because there were so many of us. And so you would get your cash and you would cash out, you would tip your bartender and your busboy, and then you would go home, right? And so about 5 or 6 years later, I got a letter from the IRS, true story, stating that based upon how much my paycheck was during that time, even though I had paid taxes on that and really ended up with a tax return because I was only making $2.25 an hour,
right,
I should have made this, I swear to God, this actually happened. I should have made X amount of dollars in tips, and I owed money on those tips. And if I didn't pay, it was like $1,500. And so I had to put myself on I'm about to cuss. I had to put myself on a payment plan with the IRS. I was
to pay them money that they never earned anyway.
Or that they ever knew that I made, because you can't quantify if Billy Bob and his wife Sarah are going to tip you based on their $50 meal. So you made an assumption on what I made and then said, this is what you should have made. And based on this, we're going to tax you and we want our money, or we're going to garnish your wages. I was working at Walmart in graduate school making $8.65 an hour. I'll never forget that. Never. I just had to say that. I
believe that is an agency, just like several other agencies, that have way too much power to do whatever they want to do. I mean, your example is so spot on, because it's like they couldn't prove that you owed that.
No.
They couldn't prove that you made that. What they figure is, we've got somebody here we can do this to, because it'll cost her more to take us to court.
That part.
So therefore, we have the power to force her to do anything. Force her to pay money she doesn't owe us.
Oh, I was livid. My heart was pounding. I was all kind. It was ridiculous.
Everyone hates the IRS.
I see why.
People tend to forget they only have that kind of power because of the people in Congress who are lazy. So they say, well, if they put rules into effect and if we don't counter it by in such amount of time, it automatically becomes part of the law. They're making their own laws. And people in Congress are too lazy to hold them in check.
Yeah.
That, to me, is just one more prime example of why every politician on both sides should be thrown out.
Yeah.
Because they are not working for us.
They can't be.
They are not.
They greasing each other's palms. Yeah.
They're working for corporate interests. They're working for BlackRock. They're working for the healthcare industry. They're working for anybody but us.
Yep.
All right. You did that one. She did make and wanted to do small business loans. Expand that for small businesses.
Okay.
All right.
Small business.
So are we talking government loans, or we started a small business and we had to get a loan to do so, and so we got a loan from a bank. There were 4 of us at the time, and we each had to cover, put up collateral for 1/4 of it. So I'm looking at it going, well, I'm not sure, and I don't know the details enough, and I don't know if there are enough details out there. But I'd be curious. Well, what is this? Is this where if you can't get a loan from a bank, you can get one from the government? Either way,
No.
it's called a loan, which means you're going to have to pay it back.
Well, actually, it's not a loan. Let's talk about
it's
that.
not.
So, no. Democratic nominee Kamala Harris, and this is according to Bankrate.com, proposed several policies this week designed to help create and grow small businesses across the country if she wins the presidency in November. She spoke to a crowd in New Hampshire about these new policies, as well as making the country's overall business climate friendlier to startups. Now, among the most ambitious of her plans is to expand the small business tax credit from $5,000 to $50,000. Now, considering that the average new business owner spends around $40,000 in their first year, this tenfold increase in tax breaks could go a long way in helping new entrepreneurs get through difficult beginnings. Now, this proposal would also give new businesses the opportunity to claim the credit after they turned a profit, which can carry some significant tax benefits for the business. Now, she also talked about making it easier for businesses to file taxes and offer federal incentives to relax local and state regulations to better foster small business growth. No place anywhere about a loan. So there, it's okay. So there you go.
Okay,
there's that.
That's fine. I mean, if you tell me I can take 40% of my, or I'm sorry, you're telling me I can. Well, since you're a small business, 50,000 of it you don't have to pay taxes on. Well, that'd be a great thing. I agree with that. But as you were reading that, something occurred to me. How are most small businesses set up legally?
I don't know. I know I'm set up. I know you were, but are they?
Well, see, because you'll have to address it. For example, you have your sole proprietorships.
Correct.
You have your LLC, which is extremely, extremely common. Or a PLLC, which is also extremely common for small businesses. I know groups of doctors that use that.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting part. In an LLC, the company does not make money. The money goes to the partners. So the company itself, the business itself is not taxed because it's a pass-through. And so the partners are taxed. So if you put in a credit for small business tax and you're not set up in a way like an S corp or something, some sort of corporation type thing, you wouldn't get it because the money would go directly to you instead of the business itself paying taxes.
Right.
So that would be, and I think that would be one where I would want to see more detail, because if you cut out all sole proprietors, you cut out all LLCs. Well, now all of a sudden, you really you won't be getting that tax credit.
That's true.
While you're looking at our policy proposals, did you see one about taxing unrealized gains?
Okay, let's look it up. Let's see. That's a good one, because I was trying to see if I could see anything about loans while you were mentioning that last part. I didn't see anything. They talked about the Small Business Administration loans, but they're so hard to get.
Right.
They really, really are. I'm a witness to that. Unrealized.
And I could be incorrect on the loans. It could be a tax thing, and that worked out about the same, depending on how it's actually written.
So here we go. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So this is on tax notes. Perfect place for that. The proposal of the billionaire minimum income tax that President Biden has proposed in his, here we go. Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris plans to tax unrealized capital gains on the ultra wealthy, needs further elaboration to assess its viability, say tax policy observers. So this isn't for the average Joe like myself and you that has a business, but we're kind of in the air, doing what we got to do. The proposal, part of the billionaire minimum income tax that President Biden has proposed in his budget for the past several years, would require individuals with a net worth of over $100 million to pay a minimum effective tax rate of 25%, which could include taxes on unrealized capital gains. Republicans have sought to portray the measure as a starting point for Vice President Harris, and Democrats to eventually tax unrealized gains on middle-income Americans and small businesses. There's the problem right there. But tax policy watchers, go ahead.
Go ahead and finish out because I've got something I want to say to it.
Okay, but tax policy watchers have expressed more technical concerns over how the plan is going to work. That's a good question. How the heck is this going to work? This is complicated. It already sounds complicated. Yeah.
I have an example for you.
Okay.
I have an example for you. Now, one, I firmly believe that they would wind up doing it to middle-class people too.
And that's a problem.
Them too.
Yep.
But do any of us really believe that they wouldn't have that tax in if they could?
Mm-hmm.
But let me give you an example of those capital gains, unrealized gains.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, and by the way, I'm not a stock expert. This is all fictitious. It's just an example to describe it. I don't want anybody thinking that but let's say that it's June of this year, 2024.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you run across an article that's not a whole lot of people have seen, but company ABC Medical Research Company looks like they may have figured out not a treatment, but a cure for Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, oh, wow. That could potentially huge news.
Okay.
You say, okay, you do a little bit more research. Oh, they've passed the first phase of testing with the FDA. Okay. So you decide, well, I'm not these rich people, but I've got some savings and I'm going to put $10,000 into this stock.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's going to go up because if they've actually come up with a cure, this is going to be insane. So you put $10,000 worth of stock. Well, let's say that over the course of July, August, other people see it and they also buy stock and the stock starts moving up.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let's say long about November, it passes the second phase.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's only got one more phase to go. And now people are really noticing it because it's passed 2 of the 3 stages for approval. And a lot of people start buying because they say this is huge. And it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Came up with an actual cure for something. That would be huge.
It would be. Absolutely.
So let's say that you have put your $10,000 in for the stock.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the year, on December the 31st,
mm-hmm.
your stock is now worth, your $10,000 you put in is now worth $50,000.
Okay.
All right. So you now have, because you put in 10 of your own money, you now have $40,000 of unrealized gains. You haven't realized it because you haven't sold your stock.
Right.
Now you could sell your stock right then, take the money, but you're looking at it going, if let it make it through the 3rd stage, this is going to go through the roof. I mean, I'm going to retire, go through the roof. I got in way early. Side note, when are your taxes for 2024 due?
When are they due? You mean what I pay when I file taxes and they tell me, all right,
when are they?
Check. What is it? April 15th?
April 15th. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to the story.
Okay.
At the end of the year, December 31st, you have $40,000 in unrealized gains. So you're like, okay, I'm going to hold on to this. I could make a great profit, but I'm going to hold on because this thing passes But let's say it comes along March and it fails the third test because apparently the drug is killing off too many people rather than curing them.
Right.
So it doesn't pass the third phase.
Mm-hmm.
And overnight, and I've seen this happen too many times, that stock tanks.
Yeah.
I mean, bottoms out. Let's say that you're on a family day when that news comes out. You know, you're hanging out with your granddaughter. You're just, you know, you don't see it till that evening, the news. And you're like, oh no. And you go in and go, okay, I got to sell these. Let's say that you get lucky and you sell that stock for the same amount that you bought it.
That's a blessing.
Okay. So you go, okay, I didn't lose. I didn't get what I was wanting to. Here's the problem. Because of the unrealized gains that you were setting up $40,000 at December 31st, it is now March. The money that you could have gotten is now gone.
It's gone.
On April 15th, you still got to pay the taxes on that.
You still got to pay the taxes on that. That's a problem.
That is taxing on unrealized gains. That means you will pay taxes on $40,000 that you never received, but yet they wanted.
That sounds like what they did to me when I was working, waiting tables. Unrealized gains, something they thought I had. Oh,
yeah. But in this case, they would know exactly that you were up 40 grand. It tanked through the FDA, not your fault. You managed to save the 10,000 you put in, but they're still demanding taxes on $40,000. That is unrealized gains, and they want to put it on billionaires. How long do you honestly think it will take before they drop that to millionaires?
And then 2,000.
and then 2,000aires. Yes.
Yeah. You're right. It won't be long because the billionaires.
Horrific policy.
It is. But if you look at it, and I know we got to move on, but
we do.
At the end of the day, what I honestly believe is it's really about how much money can you take from folks. And I get it. It's, we're trying to be fair. We want the billionaires. Well, then change the laws. That's what you do. Change the laws. And you hold people that are making more money accountable to helping rather than making it where they can absolve themselves from paying any taxes whatsoever. And that's put on the little guy. I think that's where they should put their focus as opposed to focusing on this. Because like you said, it won't be long. They're going to hit middle income families. And that's not right.
They can fix that. They can fix the tax law overnight. It's the simplest thing in the world. And oddly enough, the first time I saw the proposal, it was when Mike Huckabee was running for president on the Republican side. And it was, but you'd have to change it in the Constitution. But basically, it would go to a national sales tax. And I actually read it right now. Yes. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Hillary Clinton, all of those in that category, they don't pay federal taxes.
No.
They pay, now you have your federal taxes, then of course your Social Security, Medicare, you have to pay that. They pay that. They don't pay the federal taxes because of all the tax loopholes. But if you go to the sales tax,
and
then it listed all the taxes that would go away, income tax, everything else. What would happen is every person would pay taxes based upon what they bought.
Right.
Which means the number of, we've talked about this in the past, illegal immigrants in this country would now be immediately overnight paying taxes, which would boost the tax revenue quite a bit.
Yeah.
Donald Trump would not be able to use all these loopholes and not pay his federal tax. Nor would Oprah, nor would Hillary Clinton.
That's my point.
Or any of them.
Right. Or any of them. Yeah.
Or the people in Congress like Nancy Pelosi are worth $300 million. So if you do that, there's your answer as to why it'll never pass.
That's why.
But yet in the proposal itself, there was no taxes on food. There was an item could only be taxed one time. So if you bought a new car, you pay tax, but if you bought a used car, the taxes were already paid. You didn't pay any tax on that.
Mm. Well, that's interesting.
I love the proposal. They won't even entertain it because people in Congress would lose too much money.
Of course they would. Of course they would. Boy, this is
they don't
scary.
mind. The rest of us, take it. But so that's on those policies. That's kind of I was, when I delve into them and really look at them and go, well, some of this I don't like. But now I want to take it off politics for a minute.
Okay.
And I told you before the show, but I wouldn't tell you what it was.
Okay.
That you made a statement to me in a prior episode.
Okay.
And you made it kind of flippant, kind of serious.
Okay.
And I agreed with it.
Okay.
And I'll remind you of what it was.
Okay.
We were talking about mainstream news. Doesn't matter which side you look at.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, and you made this flippant statement. You're like, I get more real news off of TikTok than I do from mainstream news.
I do. Yeah.
And then it got me to thinking, and it happened to me this weekend because I got caught up in it. Social media dives into things because you have so many different people looking at it.
Yeah.
But then you have distractions. The magician's thing that politicians pull. And I'm not saying that this particular situation is at all, but over the last week, the presidential election, I wouldn't say was the number one trending thing on social media.
It wasn't. It
was the Diddy situation. That was all over social media. And I got caught up in it this weekend too. And I'm looking at it and going, my first thought, because I go, presumption of innocence, but looks bad,
Yeah,
but
it does.
it does, and that's we could do a whole show on that alone. But then I started looking at it from the standpoint of what you said. How do you control social media? How do you make something trending? Something that big is going to trend on social media that fast, and it's going to overshadow including an election. And I'm not saying that anybody did that or it was related at all.
But it did, though. You're right. It did. I have
manipulating social media completely.
I haven't heard a lot about, and I'm not, to be honest with you, I wasn't really paying attention because I'm kind of over it. And I'm telling you the reason why is because I've already made my decision. I don't have to be sold anymore. I already know what I'm going to be doing. Do I still need to pay attention? Absolutely. What have I been doing? I have been reading up on things myself, going over to brownstoneworldwide.com, getting the news and information as it becomes available, making sure that I am clear on what this this incoming president will do for me as an American business owner. And as a business owner, not just an American business owner, but a business owner. So I'm looking at all of that. But now, you're right. Diddy, the Diddy situation, Sean Combs, Puffy, whatever his name is this year. But then also the Marcellus Williams case has been all over the news as well. So you've been seeing both of those. And for those of you all, and I had to bring this up, but for those of you all who are unfamiliar, by the time you see this, Marcellus Williams lost his life today. He was actually executed in the state of Missouri. And that's a whole different conversation for another day. But that has been all over the news, all over social media, where it made it to the United States Supreme Court and it was still shot down. I don't know how people can sleep at night knowing the decisions that they make when it comes to someone's life. And there is evidence that proves that he was innocent. He's been telling the truth the whole time. And they went along with it anyway. So those are the two things that we saw a lot of. But what this also should make a lot of people do, the people that made the decisions, the governor, the people that made the decisions, your Supreme Court, the people that made the decisions, your local elected officials who made the decision on this man's life because it would make them look bad overall. This is the time that you need to sit your tail down and vote in your local elections. You need to
I completely agree.
and vote people out. This could have been prevented if people had been doing the proper due diligence in getting the right people in position. But let's also talk about the Supreme Court. Donald Trump knew exactly what the hell he was doing when he appointed the people that he did when he was in office, because it was a long game strategy. And it goes back to a conversation that you and I have had off the grid when we have talked about how people are strategizing. Project 2025 is a long-term strategy. We're not talking about something that they just sat down and they threw some stuff together to make a fried chicken sandwich. These are long-term goals that they have that they know are going to be in place long after they have left office.
Absolutely.
So for the people of Missouri, for the people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired, the only way that you change that is you fire their asses at the polls. Okay, I'm done. I know we got to close out.
That's all right. I'll follow up on what you just said.
Yes.
You cannot change things by focusing solely on a presidential election and working your way down to local. You cannot go that route. You have to start with your focus on your school boards.
Yes, absolutely.
And work your way up.
That's right.
You want to keep pornography out of the schools? That's your children are in. That's where you should be focusing.
Mm-hmm.
Because that local election will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
I also agree.
We saw it today. Yeah.
You and I both, we may look at a presidential election and go, okay, I've made up my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But there are, and I want your just a quick opinion on this because we're going to wrap it up. I think how do I say this? The number of undecided voters over the past few elections has shrunk. Those that actually delve in and look at things, it feels like, all right, either I'm a diehard Trump supporter, I'm a diehard Trump hater, I'm whatever it may be. My mind's made up before any of this even starts.
Yep.
And then those undecideds, the ones who tend to vote based upon economic policy and who decide the elections, that group seems to be shrinking.
Right.
And it's the highly charged emotions on both sides that are pulling people, and that group that goes, let's look at the policy. Let's really look at the policies and see, is that going to help me next year when they come into office, or is this going to hurt me?
Right.
And I feel like that, and then that's just a feeling on my part, and I just wanted your quick thoughts. Do you think that that group is shrinking?
I don't think so. I don't think it's grown, or I don't think so. I don't think it's moved. I don't think the needle has moved either up or down. I think people are just neutral right now. I think now ask that question again. Maybe I misunderstood.
Okay. There are people who are diehard Republicans.
Yeah.
Always. There are people who are diehard Democrats. Always.
Yep.
And then you have those swing voters. Of those swing voters, is that group of swing voters getting smaller?
Yeah. Okay.
Growing? For example, let's say that, for example, you're a swing voter, but you cannot stand Donald Trump.
Right.
Or you're a swing voter and you cannot stand Kamala Harris. And so are they making up their minds based on something other than what they would normally make up their minds in regards to?
Yep. Now with this, I don't think that we're seeing, I think that people are making their minds up, not based upon, and here's the truth, not based upon policy. I don't think that it's grown, or I think it's stagnant because people are sick and tired. And maybe there needs to, I'm not a politician, but I will say that, times have changed. Times are changing. And because of that,
Oh yeah.
there needs to be a new way of looking at policies and the way that things are done as we move into a new decade, which will be upon us shortly. It'll be 2030 before you know it. But even before that, and we're looking at this, there are a lot of people that are making their decision based upon, I don't need this fool in office. So it's an emotionally charged decision, not one that's based upon economic, not based upon women's rights, not based upon Now, for me, some of mine.
That to me is a bad way to make a decision.
Right. And I get what you're saying, but you can't tell me that folks are not sick of Donald Trump. I'm sick of him. He got to go. Okay.
Well, yeah, I know you feel that way, and I know I disagree with you on that point. Although I'm not saying, I will tell you this: if Donald Trump wins this election,
yeah,
I'll tell you exactly who caused it.
Who would have caused it?
And you will agree with me.
Who?
The Democrat elites, when they wouldn't let RFK on stage to debate. RFK consistently polled quite a bit higher than Donald Trump in a head-to-head.
Yeah.
And me as someone who, yes, voted for Trump, I like a lot of things that RFK had to say.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that he had to say. And if RFK was running against Donald Trump, RFK would win. I fully believe that he would win because I think he's the one person that would pull a lot of Trump voters.
Oh, he absolutely would have. Now, I did look at some of his policies, but some of the things that he talks about in terms of healthcare and so forth are dangerous. And even his family kind of had some questions about that. But now,
some of the things that he talked about with BlackRock and the pharmaceutical industry, is so spot on. It's unreal.
Yeah, I'm just not. I wasn't. After I looked at it, like I said, once I looked at what he was talking about, I thought no. But then he stepped down as well. He knew he had to relinquish those numbers over to Trump, so at least Trump would have something to go on, right? He knew, and a lot of people also knew that RFK was giving him a run for his money. So we most definitely agree there.
Do you have somebody from the Kennedy family, that dynasty, just endorsed a Republican? That was unheard of.
Unheard of.
And I've also seen that shift, and we've seen it whereas a number of politicians have either left the Democrat Party, went to independent, or left the Republican Party, and it's like this seismic shift of the way people look at issues and are changing over.
Because we're tired.
And so I find it interesting. It's not. It's very different than what it's been in the past. Oh man, 30, 40 years.
Yeah,
because of the shifts in voter blocks going different ways. Now you've got the whole Jewish American, the Israel Palestine thing, and all of a sudden, that of course is causing issues in amongst the parties. There's this seismic shift on so many different levels that I think at this point we have no idea who's going to win the election.
We have no idea, but I am going to do my part either way. Regardless, I'm going to exercise my right to vote. Okay.
Oh, now, absolutely. And I would encourage everyone to exercise that right. That's the one right that we all have. And even if you don't agree with me, vote. Even if you don't agree with Dr. Clark, vote.
Vote.
That's your right and our right to do. That's the one time we actually get a say.
Yep. I agree. That is right.
And for a later episode, just a teaser coming up, you and I are going to talk about Virginia and what they did and they're going to do with this election.
Uh-oh. All right.
And
y'all heard it first.
Will be interesting.
Okay.
On the turnout, because we'll be able to look at it afterwards and see what it did.
Okay.
But I think we have talked ourselves out for today.
Yes, we have.
Or at least in this session, because we've got a million other things. I'm not even sure I want to do a podcast on the Diddy theme because it's so far out there,
Woo.
but it is major. But
Yes. Yep.
you can check out on Facebook at Balanced with
Mhm.
Dave Lowery. You can check out Balanced on YouTube Music under podcast Balanced.
Yep.
And you can also find it at brownstoneworldwide.com, the neighborhood.
That's right.
You can also look back at past episodes and look forward to future episodes.
There you go.
And Dr. Clark,
I love it.
thank you so much. I have really enjoyed this.
Yes, this was a lot of fun. But you guys, we got to run. There are things to do and more stories to cover and all kinds of things. And I'm going to wrap it up by saying thank you so much, David, for coming to hang out with us here in the Brownstone. Once again, we're glad to see you back. And you guys, go ahead and check out brownstoneworldwide.com for news and information that you can use. Brownstone Living Magazine, which the October issue is getting ready to drop in about a week. And then lastly, we have Cityscape Radio, where you can, of course, listen to Balanced with Dave Lowery twice a week on Saturdays and on Wednesday evenings. So there you have it, all wrapped up in a bow. I think that's it. I think we should say goodnight.
I think we probably should. It's been a day.
Okay.
I know what kind of day you've had, and
Woo.
we're worn out.
Yep, I'm tired. All right, you guys, listen, it's been real. We'll see you guys on another issue and another edition of Balanced with Dave Lowery. Have a good night. Take care. Bye.